calling me, and a lot of people, I don't know if it's formalized.
Well, it's either a list or it's not, right?
Well, yeah, you're welcome to contact her. Her name is Chanda Callentine,
Okay.
and see what kind of information she can provide you. Like I said, I just don't know if it's how formalized it is, or if it's
Okay.
or whatnot.
Great, thanks. And when we repurpose the funds from onto Mary Ingles to clear the road and get it passable, et cetera, is there any plan to reimburse that $5 million that was going to go into the riverfront with South Bank and the trails? Is there a plan to repurpose those funds back to?
So the $5 million that Dave mentioned was not the funds that we received. We received funds, I think it was...
No, but didn't you say you used that money to clear Mary Ingles?
No. So
I misunderstood.
What it was we received a grant, and it was for a small trail area. I think it was less than $50,000. And we used that to analyze Mary Ingles Highway, and the grant procedure, they gave us the opportunity to do that. When you get a grant, they're very specific on what you can and can't do. And we reacclimated that monies to determine what had to be or should be done to Mary Ingles. So that was all based on, engineering analysis and things of that nature. So, I think we would have to reapply for grant funds or something like that, but it was a much smaller amount than what David mentioned.
Yeah, the money that we're talking about went directly to South Bank Partners, and that was to do an update of the Riverfront Commons plan, like I said, from Melbourne to Bromley. So it wasn't, was inclusive of Fort Thomas, but it was
for like a study or for?
Well, some of it, they've done a study, but it's to do more refined study. I guess is what I was, a preliminary engineering type effort.
Right. Thank you.
And Kevin, one of the things that you might not have mentioned that maybe clarify is that normal grants, the grants I'm familiar with, you have a certain time frame you got to use that money on, correct? I mean,
well, and that was part of the problem is because, if we didn't use it, we would lose it.
Right.
And so we didn't want to put efforts into a trail system that we may not have a road to access it. so we had the opportunity to utilize that in another manner. Thanks for pointing that out, Dave. That's a very good point.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Hillary Landwehr, 47 Woodland Place. I want to second Dave's suggestion that we include the information about the public transit in our whatever studies you're putting together. I last walked from the 25 bus stop up the hill to my house before COVID, and it took me 45 minutes. I'm not walking that fast anymore. And given the fact that you all have noticed that the median age in town is getting older, we're only going to have more people with mobility issues and things of the sort. So I would just ask that you continue that you include that information. We're going to have to address this somehow. Tank has certain procedures, like there are some on-demand things, but you have to go when they say you can go. And it makes it very difficult for you to plan. So at some point, I will reach the point where these eyes are too disgusting and I cannot drive anymore. And I will either have to leave town or find some other way to get around. And I'm probably not the only person in the room who's facing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stop.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add on to that just briefly, the city of Fort Thomas itself is not a funding partner for Tank, and their operating funds come generally through the 3 counties in northern Kentucky. There's not a dedicated tax source for Tank for their operations, so each year they have an allocation out of the general funds of the 3 counties that pays for their operations. So it's difficult and challenging for them to do planning for the long term, just because year to year the revenue is kind of at the discretion of the judge executives. So.
I understand that, but we might want to talk to the judge
Right.
executive in the fiscal court.
Right. I guess I'm just saying that's kind of the source of their revenues, and while the city can kind of advocate for service and have that dialogue, like you said, it's really in Kentucky anyway. That's the way that it works, and unfortunately,
I understand. I paid that tax.
Right.
For a number of years, so.
right.
Peggy Maggio, 37 South Shaw Lane. And when I first became involved, when I came to my first Planning Commission meeting in October of 2021, I had no idea that a comprehensive plan even existed. To be honest, I didn't know that you all existed. But when I came there that night, up on the big screen, Elisa Duffy Rogers had a proposal to change the central business district zoning right there and then, in and of itself. And what was going to be included were 50-foot high, 4-story row houses, 8 to a building, 18 feet wide. In addition, what was also going to be included was large multifamily housing units, 100% lot coverage at the sidewalk, 4 stories, 52 feet high. We asked her that night, I was aghast, and so were other people in the audience, and we said, where is this coming from? And she said, the comprehensive plan. Sure enough, when you look at the comprehensive plan, I'm talking about the land use and planning section and the focus sections in the back. That's exactly what this comprehensive plan calls for. Elisa wasn't making this up. She was bringing this comprehensive plan to fruition. It's my position, the position of many people I know, that there needs to be some changes to this comprehensive plan and all during those 2 sections that I talked about. When we look at the KRS is resolute that anything that goes into comprehensive plan has to be factual, based on evidence. I'm here tonight to talk for the citizens of Fort Thomas. The only evidence we have of what Fort Thomas citizens want is the survey that was done in 2016 for this comprehensive plan update. I am perplexed because the results of those survey are in direct contravention in a lot of places to what's in this comprehensive plan. Now, the comprehensive plan in those 2 sections I talked about has a lot of good stuff in it. But there is stuff in it that was put, why it was put in there, I don't know, but I'm just going to do some examples here. So for example, from the survey, 0.056% wanted housing on top of retail in the central business districts. What we got in the comprehensive plan, and excuse me if I don't, it'll take me a minute to find this. Priority objectives. Page 77, allow housing in business districts, where 0.056% of people wanted it. Number 2, encourage new housing redevelopment adjacent to business districts. When this was asked in the survey, it will take me just a second to find it, 28% of the residents were in favor of this. How stuff got into this comprehensive plan that Fort Thomas citizens didn't want, and there's more. I don't know if you all had access to those results when you adopted this plan in 2018, if you considered what Fort Thomas citizens wanted, but it wasn't until August of 2023 that the full results went onto the Fort Thomas website. So I would understand if you guys did not have access to that in 2018. I was on vacation in 2023, and I heard it mentioned at this meeting and at the city council meeting that I was going to be involved in the revision of the comprehensive plan. I called Matt, we set up a meeting, and in so doing, I actually read the comprehensive plan. And again, I'm talking about the land use section and the focus sections on the back. I went through and looked to see what actual evidence was supporting some of these goals and objectives. And many of them I either could find no evidence or the evidence was contravened by the only evidence we have, and that's the survey. I created the document that I both emailed you and you have it today. To change this would not take an act of Congress. It would take a red pen. And what I did and what I prepared for Matt and what I provided to you are those areas where I believe, and this is just my opinion, that what we're seeing in this comprehensive plan and many of the goals and objectives does not comport with what Fort Thomas citizens want. Not in the survey, not what we've heard at these meetings, not what we've heard at city council meetings, and not what I've heard from not every single person I've talked to. I've heard council members say in council meetings that they've not talked to one Fort Thomas citizen who wants increased density in the business districts, but yet, we got a goal here. I'll go back. And this is on page 189. This is goal TC2, increase critical mass of retail mixed uses in housing. This is talking specifically about the CBD. I ask you to go back and read, literally just read, look, and see what kind of evidentiary support you can find for many of these goals that are in those two sections of the comprehensive plan. I know that doesn't sound like you all have the appetite to take this on, but by KRS, it's your responsibility. And it's your responsibility that whatever goes in this comprehensive plan or stays in this comprehensive plan is in fact backed by evidence and not contravened by evidence. I have other documents that I've created also that I'll be glad to provide to you all. But again, if one person would take it upon themselves to take the red pen, two things. Number one, take a look at things that are not supported by evidence or contravened. And then number two, there's stuff in here that is moot because of the UDO. For example, in this plan is form-based housing, form-based zoning, which was taken out early on. In this plan is townhouses and row houses and lots of multifamily housing that doesn't comport with the UDO. So there's several sections, not a lot. I think there's 10 double-spaced, triple-spaced areas that I would ask you to take a look at when you're talking about this comprehensive plan. There are areas of the comprehensive plan that have not been effectuated. For example, in the comprehensive plan, there's an entire section on historic preservation. In the strategy portions at the end, there's supposed to be a historic preservation plan. In 8 years, that hasn't happened. There's also, both in the 2005 comprehensive plan and in the 2018 comprehensive plan, calls for a central gathering space here in the CBD. In 20 years, that hasn't happened. We have a perfect place for it right where the Ameristop is, all by Hank Pogue's property. We can make a nice park there, a nice central gathering space, and effectuate the 2005 comprehensive plan and the 2018 comprehensive plan. So I would ask you, please don't just write this off. Please don't just change the map. Actually read and look at what's there. I would ask you to look at the survey results. They're now on the web. I can send them to you. Kevin, I think you sent me the actual questions that were on the survey.
Yes, I think we do have reference to those. I don't have them handy or anything like that, but yes, we probably have those. I don't know about all the results. I don't remember really digging into the results, to be quite honest. I don't remember. I know at the time we probably discussed it, but I'd have to see what we've got.
So I know somewhere. Okay, thank you. I think Patty, we're going to come and talk. Just a minute or two. Tell me, I'm about. So I know there's several city council members who want to be involved in this process. If we're looking at the goals, and we're not going to change the goals, goal number 3, I think, goal number 3, overreaching goal is to include city council in this in the comprehensive plan process. Goal number 4 is citizen input. So I would ask not the mere statutory requirement of having a public hearing, but literally having meaningful citizen engagement. Again, nobody I know, nobody we've heard at any meeting, nor anybody that's talked to any council member wants an increase in critical mass of retail mixed use and housing, wants an extra housing up in the central business district. I know you've heard it. I've been at meetings where you've heard it, and I would ask you to really take your responsibility seriously. Like I said, it would take maybe one of you with a red pen to go through it and to truly make a revision of this. Secondly, I know there's council members and many community members who think there should be a survey, that you all should be basing your decisions on evidence of what the citizens want. I have no, other than the people I talk to about multifamily housing and increased density, I don't know what citizens want, and I don't know if all citizens want that. And I would hope, Kevin just asked you if you wanted any more research. I would hope that you all would have that kind of curiosity, that you all would want to know what actual citizens want for our city. Much of what's in this comprehensive plan, like I said, is great, but some of it was an attempted redesign that Elisa was just doing her job in putting forth. So I'm happy that through the UDO, some of that was thrown out the window, but I would ask you please to consider a revision. One just last thing, I'm talking about Saints. I don't think we do anybody any favor who are watching on TV or out in the community when we speculate on what could or couldn't happen to these companies in Fort Thomas. Kevin said that Matt talked to the VA, and the VA said they're going to stay. They know DOGE is coming, but that's what they said. That's the fact. That's the evidence. VA said they're going to stay. When it comes to St. E's, this discussion came up a couple years ago, so this is a couple years old. I was sitting next to a St. E's administrator at a dinner. I said, "You guys live in Fort Thomas?" He said, "Absolutely not." He said, "We just put in the urgent care center. We're upgrading our MRI at the time or some sort of big." He said St. E's, at least 2 years ago, had a regional plan. They're building a new hospital out in Lawrenceburg. I think that what Steph said is true. Talk to St. E's. Let's see what's going to happen. And let's not scare citizens of Fort Thomas with these speculations. Anyway, thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. And I hope you'll take a look at my document.
I guess the only one thing I was going to say, to chapter 2.6, the focus area plans, those are all at a much more significantly lower, or I should guess that's the other way, a higher level of detail than what would be in a comprehensive plan. So I know there's been a lot of changes in a lot of these focus areas, one way or the other, over the past 5 to 6 years. And so I don't, in our and that's why I was getting with the adoption of an addendum. In the comprehensive plan, you're not really going to get down to these neighborhood or street-by-street level of analysis.
So Dave, this is our comprehensive plan. The reason that I'm concerned about it is because I've seen court cases over these last 4 years where various development plans have been challenged. And it seems to me, and Tim can speak to this, and you guys can research this much more than I can, I'm just generally speaking, courts look to the comprehensive plan. Whether we like it or not,
Yeah,
this is what we got, and from KRS 100.1A7, sub 1.
I guess what I'm saying is in the addendum that we may do is following this is clarify which
I see what you're
portions
saying, Dave. Thank you.
apply and which don't apply to the updated.
Well, I
comprehensive
think what
plan.
you could do, honestly, like I said, take the red pen. I think in that document I have delete this word, delete that word. It would take potentially 2 hours
Right.
to go through and just do some deletions. And then hopefully in the future, I would hope this planning commission would address those areas that have not been addressed, like for 20 years, that central gathering space. So, but when it comes to revisions, I would hope that you would get counsel. It wouldn't take much for the city to set up some citizen input meetings. Tonight, the fact that I'm here has to do with that I went on the calendar and pushed this meeting and got to the agenda. Nowhere in the city website, not on Facebook, not on Instagram, nowhere has it been advertised that Fort Thomas is talking about a revision of the comprehensive plan. So how citizens are supposed to know this, I don't know, but I would imagine that you all on this commission would like Fort Thomas citizens to know that you are in fact considering these revisions and what they might like to see in the revision of the comprehensive plan. But I appreciate that, Dave, thank you. But I do think when it comes to a judge, and when I see number 1, a statement of goals and objectives, I just read you 3 goals and objectives that don't in any way comport with what I believe that Fort Thomas citizens want, nor is that reflected in the survey.
Right. And then at the end of the day, the goals and objectives will be reviewed and approved by council. So,
Well, Dave, not unless you guys, so if you rubber stamp what's there, let me see where this is.
yeah.
If there's no recommended change, then it does.
Yeah, if there's no recommended change.
So I'm hoping that you would take a serious look at this, look at what this called for, how Lisa took that. She was just doing what she was told to do, take this thing and make it happen, and where that led us and where we want to be now.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that has comments? Anybody else have questions?
You want to go into next section or wait?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you all. I don't know, I don't have my phone on me what time it is.
7:50.
Yeah, it's up to your preference if you want to move forward with, we talked about maybe starting on the goals and objectives.
I guess I would say
Or other,
maybe we want to push it to next meeting and better advertise that we're talking about comprehensive plan. I don't know that we're going to get any more interest, but let's see if we've got more public interest. I mean, what we know from the zoning changes, you have the same 8 or 10 people the whole time, but if we can get somebody new and wants to let us know what they're thinking, I'd say, why don't we push that off? I think it's probably a good stopping place now, and, I'm not sure how we get better word out to everybody, but if
Well, we do what we always do, and maybe this one didn't get out on the Facebook. I think it probably got on our calendar as we always do. Perhaps, I'm not sure when the next newsletter's coming out or something like that. We could throw it out on there.
I do think there would be some benefit to just getting some input from council, not, and maybe necessarily in a formal way, but to their point, I think just if the council has, I guess the question I have is, has council been provided a copy? Or, well, it's online, but.
Yeah. I mean, we've notified council of the process.
Yeah, I'd be just interested in what do they think about the goals and objectives? Did they think there's a need to change anything or not? I don't know. It'd be good to get some input.
I'll talk to our
It doesn't
administrator.
have to be a formal resolution or anything, but just, invite them to come to the next meeting or provide a, correspondence or an email or something. It just says, yeah, I think these are great, or I would like to see this, that, or the other thing, or think you might want to consider this or something.
I mean, I would suggest that they all know that we're meeting about this.
Well, yeah,
They do.
If
They've
they
been
want to
notified.
know, they can show up and talk to us.
They know, but I think it'd be good just to solicit their opinions on the goals and objectives as they currently stand and just see if they have any thoughts. That's it. Not that we're, just rubber stamping whatever they say, but it'd be good to get their input.
Sounds like you need a motion.
Anybody else?
Adjourn.
Can I ask one, Tim, can
Go
I ask a
ahead.
question first? I'm sorry.
We haven't voted on it.
No.
Yeah, there's no vote that, oh, I'm
So
sorry.
Tim, based on the comment that was just made about, evidence and whatnot, two questions I would have is, with this survey,
The survey that was mentioned,
so what is required evidentiary-wise to be able to evaluate, what the community wants? I mean, as far as what I see is, that's why you have a planning commission in one respect. I'm representing the community in that respect. Also taking into consideration other comments from others, right? But at the same time, representing the community as a community member, and as well as this board. But, what's the requirement for, legally for, looking at a survey? Or other data points? I mean,
it's not like this is a court of law where there are rules of evidence, rules of procedure that would govern how evidence comes to you and what would truly be deemed as evidence. Is something like that potential evidence? Absolutely. In my opinion, absolutely. With any piece of evidence, are you duty-bound to scrutinize it and take a look at it and say, okay, who did it? How was it done? What was the questioning like? Surveys are great. Surveys are terrible. And if that's something that, and they can be so skewed. And I'm not saying that one is. But my point is, if that's a piece of evidence that would come before you and you deem it to be worthy of consideration, something that you would want to place value in potentially, then you may want to discuss the possibility of the city doing a survey. Now, there are folks that, because I believe that survey.
So Tim, this was a Fort Thomas survey. This survey was conducted by the city of Fort Thomas.
So the survey you're talking about, because there was another survey done that I believe was basically done online. Is that accurate?
Believe me, I didn't even know there was a comprehensive plan, so that's how good the communication was back then, but,
Wait a minute.
but my
Wait a
understanding
minute,
is.
hang on.
Okay, sure.
My question is, the survey you're talking about, is that the survey from back at the old comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Okay, then I think you would need to determine, hey, do I have a lot of value in that? Do I want to consider that greatly? And if so, you may want to get a survey that's updated and that gives you additional information. I mean, I understand why you might want something like that.
I mean, yeah, and I think some of it comes down, I don't even remember what the questions were in the 2018 survey. Are they even applicable anymore, so
We
it's,
had like about 700 responses, I think.
I don't know.
Well, I know that there was another survey out there in the ether, and I'm not sure where it was originated wasn't done through the city, and there was a lot of arbitrary questions, and I think that's what we heard through the UDO, some of these comments about a survey through that process, and I know that there was, it wasn't city-sponsored, and I'm not sure how it got out there or who initiated it, but there was a lot of arbitrary questions that were really, not, do you want, I forget some of the questions, but they were just very leading, very leading and not really appropriate questions. I can provide the survey that we had and the answers to the surveys to you all. I think that is, as Peggy said, probably online, but we can, round that up for you all and see if it's applicable to you or, of interest to you all.
And Kevin, I apologize for the confusion initially. I thought Peggy was referring to the survey that was done while you were reviewing the UDO.
Tim, just for point of clarification, I don't even know about that survey. What I'm quoting to you is the Fort Thomas survey conducted by the city of Fort Thomas. My understanding is probably by CT Consultants. So the validity of that survey is the validity of the Fort Thomas process.
Many
Not
years
this,
ago.
whatever Kevin's talking about has nothing to do with what I just heard.
Okay.
I don't even know who initiated that original survey.
So
It wasn't this group.
well, I think it was with the comprehensive plan process. There was a survey done with that. Once again, as far as,
I don't think we created it.
no, I think it was created by probably CT or, collaborative effort between us and CT at the
Because we
time.
have the structure without a survey. We have the opportunity for the population to talk about things. We don't need a survey for everything we do in the city.
Right.
That's
Well,
one point.
And Dan, if you remember, I mean, we were both there back in 18 when that went on, and you mentioned it in your introduction tonight. We had that survey, and we certainly looked at it. I know I was a resident at that time. I wasn't surveyed, so I didn't have input on the survey. Don't know how they did it. But we had much community input that, was reflected in the community plan. And maybe that went directly against some of the survey questions, but there were committees formed. We had, the meetings over at the mess hall, that we had a lot of community input in there that was separate and apart and different from the survey. So not suggesting that we didn't look at it, but a lot of what was done on that direct community input on people who took the time to involve themselves on the committees that had input on the different aspects. So just want you to know that. And I do hear, the survey said this, but our comprehensive plan says something else. Well, I don't think it was just forgotten or overlooked. I think that was done very consciously based on the community input that we had at the time.
Here's the community, right here. She looks like
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So Patty Hudapole, 26 Woodland Place. I was on the committee, the Land Use and Zoning Committee, and I sent, you might not have gotten it, I don't think you did, but they have a list of 30 people who were on that committee, and I went through the list, and I wrote how many people were here on this committee, or work for the city, or came to one meeting, or had a business interest. And all in all, there were probably 7 Plain residents that were involved in that committee. So there really were not a lot of people in town that were involved in that.
They were the people who were interested.
It chose not to.
I'm just, I mean, we opened it up to everyone.
And the standard form of conveying your interest in something is by showing up at meetings.
Well, and there were more than one committee, too. There was
True.
6 or something, I
But
don't
I
remember,
think
but anyway.
I think the committee that has always been contentious has been the Land Use and Zoning Committee.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to, is there anything in the old survey or new survey that would change that map at the end of the day? That's fundamentally what's the most important thing. Because under the KRS, you have land use, transportation, and community facilities. Those are the elements that are required in the comprehensive plan. Outside of that, it's all up to whatever the city would like to do.
No judge is ever going to look at that. They're going to look at the comp plan. They're going to look at the comp plan for what the city has planned. And if what's in there is something the citizens want,
But if we say, if we say in our addendum that the comp plan that we're adopting in 2025 includes X elements of the 28 plan, or the 18 plan, I'm sorry, that is the new comprehensive plan. So that's what I'm saying.
Would it be considered the new comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Or just an update?
Well, it would be the adopted comprehensive plan would be, it can rely on this, but it doesn't have to be exclusive to the entire content of
Right,
this, is
right.
what I'm saying.
Well, and I agree with Peggy. In our meetings run by CT, part of our direction was, oh, just throw anything out there. We'll put any, just whatever you think. Well, a lot of it made it into the comprehensive plan, which, should not have really been there, because then it was like little things were picked out to change the central business district.
Yeah. I mean, this, like I said at the time, and I wasn't on the land use committee or whatever at the time, but, this was a visioning plan and a strategic plan. It was more than a comprehensive plan. So
Right.
that's, it included a lot of stuff, some good, some bad, some indifferent, but, as we go through this new process, we don't have to adopt everything in here word for word.
Right.
Or section by section. We can say, we take these elements out of the 2018 plan and we adopt those or we modify those, and that's the new comprehensive
Right.
plan.
But I would agree that, so that in the future going forward, something, what I would consider a little crazy, doesn't get implemented, to take it out. So,
Yeah.
a lot easier to delete than to add. Thank you.
I'll re-up my motion to adjourn.
Well, before you do, I want to talk to you. As a commissioner, this is my last meeting, okay? I am about 2 weeks from my 40th anniversary on this committee. Yes. So Jim Beinecke, who has the Board of Adjustment, and I both got on our committees at the same time. So I probably chaired this for 30 years and been on it 40. So I've decided to abandon this seat. And Kevin is actively looking, or council is looking for a replacement. Okay. But I will be following you guys. I enjoy this process.
Dan, I assume you'll be at that podium. Kinda
I
give-
might be, but comprehensive plan, we've been through a few, and you have to remember the comprehensive plan should not be what exists today. It should be where you want to get to, in my mind. What you want to grow the city to get to. If we make it the same as it is now, nothing will ever change. And like I think you said, Highland, the big building here is the only thing really that's significantly changed in Fort Thomas in a long time. A little bit of residential down Newman Avenue there, some of that type of stuff. Things have been remodeled, high schools, like I say, playgrounds and things like that, but nothing giant. And I don't think it'll be that way in my lifetime. It'll stay pretty much like it is. So I bid you good luck on this process. And I'll probably see you guys from out there for once in a while.
Before my motion, I'd like to thank you for your years of service here, Dan. Really, it's appreciated.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
One less engineer on the committee.
So I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and a congratulatory farewell to Dan. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I'm even gonna steal
I think that's only
I'm gonna
fair.
steal my name tag.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, never say it on the record.
Yeah, put it on my door.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I
Did
did
you
that.
turn off the
I did
computer?
that.
I got several on my door at my office.